Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And I just want to thank the DNRS Celebrations Recovered team for inviting me, the speakers team, I mean. And I want to thank all of you for being here and honoring me with your presence and your questions. First of all, I would like to say that I am not a DNRS or rewiring coach. So I'm sharing things that I've learned on my journey and things that have worked for me. So please feel free to take anything that resonates with you and feel free to leave the rest. And secondly, most of you know that I was a physical therapist for 24 and a half years before my journey took a bit of a detour. And the last 10 years of my practice, my specialty was treating dizziness and balance disorders, and about 60% of my caseload was patients with brain injury. So neuro rehab was already a big part of my life and training. And so, and also way back in when I was in my mid-20s, I had a small limbic storm and I couldn't work as a physical therapist for a little while. So I did go back to school. I got my Master's of Science degree in cellular and molecular biology. And so I'm just sharing with you my background because that's the perspective that I come to rewiring with. And it's fairly scientific, fairly research-oriented health practitioner approach. And I'm just so grateful because we, DNRS retrainers and brain retrainers, we're a pretty diverse and pretty talented bunch of people. And I'm so grateful for other people's perspectives, and they're so vastly different from mine. And we have so much to learn from each other's different approaches. And the ultimate goal, of course, is to get a broader understanding of how rewiring can work for different people and how rewiring actually works in general. So I'm so grateful to be part of this wonderful community. And lastly, I just want to say that I am so honored to have been part of the rewiring community. You are all the most authentic, brave, and loving people that I have ever met. And it's been an absolute honor to share this journey with you. So without further ado, I'm going to go into, so the first part of my talk is my top 5 retraining principles. And so don't feel like you need to make notes because I've typed up my speech and I will sort of do some final edits on it and forward it to Anya in a Word document. So then if you want a copy of my speech, just contact the Celebrations Recovered Speakers team. So kick back, relax, grab a cup of tea, and if I don't get to your question, you actually might find the answer to your question in my top 5 retraining tips. So, but I will be addressing the questions one by one in the Coffee with Lorelei audio recordings. Okay, so this is a very brief summary of my journey. I had it starting in 2005, and I was no longer to work regularly as a physical therapist by 2011. And I had so many its by 2016 that I was in bed 23 hours a day and I couldn't take care of myself. And so I'm jumping to the first question is, what is your new story? How would you describe yourself and your life? Did you create this story along the way to grow into? So my new story is I'm now living a really full life. I'm taking care of my family. I'm taking care of my house. I'm helping out my mom because she's 82 and she needs a little help. I'm doing volunteer work outside my home. I can hike, I can bike, I can kayak, I can walk, I can do Pilates. And I sort of did about 3 years and 9 months of DNRS training from February 2017 to November 2020 when I became free. And I still do 1 hour practice every day, but I've modified it to doing a mixture of DNRS rounds and reciting my new core beliefs. a gratitude practice. I do some meditating. And I sort of like being a lifelong a brain retrainer, because it's there's always something new to learn. And I like the way this practice makes me feel. And it's the way that I want to be in the world now. And it goes along with my spiritual growth. And so I don't look at it as something that I need to do. It's something that I want to do. And so I'm calm, I'm relaxed, I'm much happier. And I don't live so much in my head anymore. And I'm feeling my way through life, which is absolutely new for me, because I used to be so much in here. I'm exploring lots of new journeys. And I had to give up my license as a physical therapist because of insufficient practice hours because of my ITS. So I did grieve that, but I'm writing some papers now. I wrote a research proposal about DNRS and neuroplasticity and rewiring. Haven't got any funding yet, but it's okay. I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do now. I'm just kind of exploring some different things. And I think my last pop was really letting go of, well, I mean, I'm sure, we're human. We're going to have pops throughout our life. But the last pop that I really identified as part of my last sort of rewiring journey was letting go about my self-worth tied to what I can do. And so I'm just going with the flow. I'm sure the universe has something amazing planned for me. Hasn't unfolded yet, and my story is unfolding as I go. So living in the moment, celebrating who I am and not what I can do. And somebody asked me, spa time was a part of my process. And I thought that I did post at one time that I thought I'd keep on doing it after I was completely it free. But actually, I haven't had spa time since October, maybe, of last year. I do my afternoon rounds or meditation time. But I make my self-care and my joy a priority every day. So they get, spa time was just my version of what I called nap time, because I didn't want to identify it with something that I needed or something that was associated with an it. So I don't have my spa nap time anymore. I have my self-care, my joy is a priority every day. They get first dibs on my time, and then everything else follows. So I don't think I need spa nap time or spa time for self-care anymore, because it's a priority in my own life now. So that's my journey now, and what I'm up to these days. So now we're going to the top 5 retraining tips. Okay. So these are in addition to the 5 pillars, not in place of the 5 pillars. Okay. Because we all follow the 5 pillars. It's been sort of the bedrock of my retraining practice. But if I was to add any sort of tips to it, these are it. And I have an acronym for you guys. It's BBBUU. So 3 B's and then 2 U's. And so the first one is believe. So you need to believe that recovery and transformation will happen. And this goes back to pillar 1. So it's recognizing that your ITs are a limbic system impairment. And you literally have to believe it to see it. Because not the other way around. Because you say, oh, I'll believe it when I see it. The doubt and worry actually fuels the fear and stress response, which will be triggering the limbic system. So you absolutely need to take a leap of faith and do whatever you need to do to just embrace pillar 1. It might be that you might need to read a little bit more. You might need to kind of just look back and try and take that limbic lens off and just say, you know what, I did that. Absolutely, I can do this. So I'm going to tell you a story. Okay, so this is the story about my last. I had some heart rate and blood pressure hits when I was trying to exercise. So up to about October of 2020, I had been incrementally training on trying to bike ride on my exercise bike for 3 years and 8 months. And I would get on my stationary bike for about a minute, and then I get its. And my DNRS coach, so I did have a coach, she suggested a whole range of strategies, which helped a little bit, but I sort of couldn't get over that hump. And the strategies that she suggested, which may help you get over your little blip, is, try sandwiching the exercise activity between rounds. Do rounds while doing the activity. Do rounds about the activity. Don't do rounds about the activity, because I was focusing on how I needed to train on this. I played music. I watched funny videos while I was on my bike. And I know that there's sometimes a delay between rewiring and new thinking in the brain and physiological changes in the body. And I've used this example before. If you have cholesterol issues and you change your diet today, and you don't slip back or change your mind or go back to the old diet, it'll take 3 to 6 months for your cholesterol markers to catch up with your new behavior and your new way of thinking. And that's just one marker. Okay. Now, with some conditions, and it's a cascade and a network of different hormones and genes that need to get turned off in a sequence. So some its may take a little longer than other its to resolve. So when I get on that bike, I would have sort of this playful attitude, saying to myself, let's see if my body has caught up to my rewiring today, and get on that bike with no expectations, no fear, no worry, and see what happens. And so I would get it sort of it's usually I got it to about 2 minutes, but the its would come back, and sometimes they would stay for days, and then I'd have to back off. So what actually helped was my final realization that my limbic system was responsible for initiating the blush response. And it's like, okay, when you're embarrassed or when your limby is giving you a shame storm and saying you're not enough, you get this blushing response. And I went, when I finally that clicked in my brain, I went, ugh, blushing and the heart rate and the flushing and the blood pressure, it's so limbic. So even a split second of subconscious sort of fear or worry can trigger that response. So I think what was happening was subconsciously, I was still running that old pattern. And when I got on that bike, something was being triggered. And so once my prefrontal cortex really embraced the fact that all these its were limbic, I disidentified with it. I said, you know what, that's a limbic response. So I got back on my bike and I exercised for like 1 to 2 minutes, and then my it would come. And then actually I'd pedaled through it and it went away. And within like 3 or 4 days, I was able to bicycle 5 minutes and it didn't even start. And then within like weeks, I was up to 20 minutes. I thought, okay, somewhere in my brain, I did not embrace pillar 1 enough. And so, 3 years and 8 months, right? It was like 3 years and 8 months. And it absolutely went away. So I just want to reiterate with this story that the power of subconscious thought patterns and behaviors can be very strong. And I'm going to use this as a teaching moment. And I hope this is not too technical for people. But the famous psychologist, Dr. Pavlov, with his dogs and his conditioned response of dogs salivating with a bell and a presentation of food. It's I think most people know this story, that so when he presented the dogs with the bell, the sound of the bell and the food, the dogs would start salivating. And so then he found that after weeks of this, the dogs would start salivating just with the bell. So that is an example of a subconscious physiological response. And we have these, our limbic bell has been rung so many different ways, and that we just have to figure out that, okay, we're going to decondition ourselves. And none of it was our fault. It just happened, right? And we have to really believe that we have the neuroplasticity tools to change our subconscious physiological conditionings. So if you have an it, you can just say, okay, I'm just salivating. It's a response that got conditioned, and I have to rewire it and decondition it. Okay, so that's number one. So number one was believe. Okay, so we're going to the next B, because we're going to B. The next B is absolutely become someone new. So what I mean by this is, don't focus or keep on identifying with your limbic system injury, because you can keep on triggering your limbic response by focusing on your its and your limbic system injury and analyzing it. And even limbically investigating and focusing on how to fix yourself, you're emphasizing to yourself, I'm broken. How am I broken? Why am I broken? What are all the systems that are broken? How do I measure that I'm broken? How do I fix it? How many ways can I fix this? Because I'm broken. And that belief that you are broken is subconsciously triggering your fear response. So if you can disidentify and just say, oh, that's just an it, disidentify with that identity. It will be really helpful, I believe. So you need to be a curious observer of your word choice, your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings, to make sure that you are not subconsciously or consciously triggering your limbic response. So it's literally like putting a new record on the record player and not going back to the old one. So not to say that it's just a matter of belief, okay? That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that, there are many different genes that may need to be turned on and off, and different hormones and physiologies that need to be rebalanced. But the limbic and fear and worry response activates the sympathetic nervous system. And this autonomic nervous system dysregulation affects all systems: GI, immune, nervous system, endocrine system, blah, 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 blah. And as you calm the limbic system down, the autonomic nervous system regulation will rebalance, and your body will heal and transform. It knows how to do it. You just need to kind of settle things down and give it a chance. Okay, so just sorry, scrolling down here on my speech. Okay, so all I'm saying is that sometimes it's hard to know what's happening in the moment, because you've been retraining and your physiology is catching up. So I think there is a difference sometimes with physiology not getting caught up yet and sticking in an old limbic record. And I'm going to explain this a little bit further. So it's literally like your limbic system has this kind of this record, this concert of physiologies that it can just put in, and you get all these its. But sometimes I think that you literally need to become someone new so their limbic system doesn't play the old record. Okay? So this is a journey about, not about recovery, but transforming and becoming. Your soul wants to be your true self, not bound by adopted cultural beliefs or others' expectations. You get to follow your joy, your values. And I've talked about, I don't know if you can see that, You Are the Placebo, Joe Dispenza, one of my favorite books. Chapter 4 is about the two groups of men who went to a monastery retreat, okay? And for the people who haven't read it, I'll give the brief synopsis. So the environment at the monastery retreat was made to look like 20 years ago, with music and of that generation and food of that era, and the newspapers were from that era, and the radio had music and announcements from that era, and the television was from that era. So the first group of men were told to completely believe that they were 20 years younger, okay? And the second group of men were told that, hey, this is a nostalgia retreat. You're to reminisce about life 20 years ago. So the first group, they actually became younger. They had blood work changes, they had heart rate changes, blood pressure changes, they had more playful attitudes, they grew taller, and these multitude of changes stuck for months afterwards. And so you literally are what you believe. And if you believe that you are already transformed up here, the rest of it will follow. So you can wake up every morning, turn your limby off, and you get to decide who you want to be in this life. Now, in the first 6 to 12 months of retraining, I think certainly my first 6 to 12 months of retraining, the first stages are you're too busy catching your pops. And but as I progressed in my journey, it was much more about becoming who I wanted to be in this life. And I get to decide, you know, how I act, think, feel, and respond in every situation. And, you know, it's not about recovery, it's about becoming. And you don't always get to decide what happens to you in life, but you absolutely get to decide how you respond to it. And so just keep on saying, I am the master of my fate, I'm the creator of my reality and my destiny. And if you get an it, don't catastrophize it, don't identify it, just normalize it. Just say, you know what? I have an it, everyone gets an it every once in a while. Don't re-identify being broken. Don't re-identify with being broken. You know, maybe you need some self-care, maybe you need some self-compassion, you know, and just, you know, take care of your body and heart and soul, whatever you need to do, but don't re-identify with being broken. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the record thing, because this is sort of a new hypothesis of mine. And I have been asking people about it for a while now, because I noticed that on holidays, I would get sort of a big push forward where I'd be more relaxed, I get more energy, and my its would like go right down and go, you know, what is going on when I go on holiday? Is it just that I'm, you know, on holiday, I'm excited, I'm happy, you know, and you know, I don't have to do laundry, and I'm excited to go see different things, and I'm, you know, not having to cook and all that stuff. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and because I've noticed that most holidays I get this push forward, and then and I thought, well, what is it? You know, what is the physiology here? And I had this, and so I think there's a, I really do think that sometimes it's physiology, but sometimes it's the limbic system playing an old record. And I had a really good conversation with C from my laughter yoga group in the winter. I don't know if he's here or not. Big shout out to C if you're here. He was thinking that the limbic system can get triggered when one thing changes, but it doesn't know which record to run if you change 2 or 3 things at a time. So it's like, okay, and I think B in my laughter yoga group shared this a couple weeks ago too, that she had gone to her summer cabin and all of a sudden it's like her limbic system could not, like, if you change one thing, it's going to go, okay, I changed one thing, I'm training on a new food, I'm training on a new activity, and your limbic system is going, okay, I know I changed one thing. Okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? But sometimes if you change 2 or 3 things, or maybe if you shift and become someone new, it has no idea how to play a record, and it's at a loss. And so, and I thought, well, maybe that's for everybody, where you're kind of playing with physiology catch-ups and old concerts of behavior patterns and physiological responses. Would make a great research study. Okay, so that's certainly true for me, and it's certainly true for a lot of people that I've talked to. So it's an interesting premise that you're actually a lot more recovered than you think you are, because sometimes you actually have just inserted an old record. So I'm going to leave you for that thought, and I'm going to jump to number 3B, bust your pops. Okay, so it's believe, become, bust your pops. Okay, so you're doing about an hour rounds a day. Don't let your pops run the other 23 hours, okay, and trigger your limbic response. And so just a reminder, I've posted this numerous times before on the DNRS forum. My council believes there's 2 main categories of POPs that trigger the limbic system. One is physical health and safety issues. And number 2 is the emotional and psychological issues of not being seen as good enough. So category 1 is sort of physical health and safety. Do I have food? Do I have water? Physical health. What's in my environment? Is there a tiger? Do I have enough money? Do I have shelter? So all the physical things. So that's one arm of the limbic system, okay, of what it looks for. The other arm is the emotional and psychological aspect of being seen as we are good enough, okay? And the reason for that is that the evolutionary success of a tribe is much higher than the evolutionary success of one individual. So we have this negative evolutionary bias to be social creatures and to want to belong to the tribe and to be seen as worthy, okay? So this negative bias in our brains is constantly checking both arms of the limbic response. And so if you notice that you're triggered, you can usually calm the system right down by saying one of the 2 main opposites. I am safe, I'm good enough. And just keep on saying that to yourself. If you can't figure out what's triggered yourself, just say, I'm safe. I'm so safe. I am safe. You can do some havening and activate your parasympathetic nervous response by stroking downwards on your arms. And you say, I am good enough. I am good enough. I am more than enough. And the limbic system likes to spin and plan and overplan and gets into an overthinking, analyzing loop. It constantly likes to check the past for survival lessons and check the future for sort of coming issues. As you live more in calm and dose chemistry and live in the now, you will recognize more and more when you are triggered and you'll be able to more easily identify your pops and bust them. Okay, so I think people don't get that the busting the pops is, I feel, just as important, if not more important, than doing your rounds, because you want your system to get into that sympathetic I made a mistake. Parasympathetic healing, nurturing response. Okay, so you just want to calm the whole system down. Okay, number 4. We're getting to it. You. It's all about you. Okay, so believe, become, bust your pops. And number 4, it's all about you. And not in the limbic self-judgment, taking everything personally and making assumptions that everything's about you. No, this is a beautiful journey about self-discovery, self-acceptance, self-love, self-appreciation, self-compassion, self-care, self-celebration, and self-forgiveness. It's a beautiful, transforming journey about you. And not one about illness and removing its, and also to be at one with yourself. Mind, body, heart, and soul. And so you're not letting your mind ignore the body, or you're not letting your mind ignore your heart because you've got all this limbic chatter. And you need to be your true self and be at one with yourself. Now, there is a book. Don't read it. It's not DNRS friendly. You can read it after you're recovered. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it talks about how your body, if you're stuffing your emotions or what you really want to do down, it stores it in the body. And it has this theory that maybe your body has to kick up a bit of a fuss because you're not listening to it. And this was very true for me in my own journey. And I was constantly putting my needs last. I was stuffing emotions. I was doing what was right for others, but not what was right for myself. You need to follow your joy. You need to take care of your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul. And listen to yourself. Listen to your body. What does it need? Does it need some self-care? Does it need some self-compassion? Do you have some emotions that need to be resolved? Do you need to go to the bathroom? Do you need water? Do you need food? Do you need rest? Do you need to sit down? Do you need to stand up? Do you need to stretch? Build trust with yourself. Build trust with your own body. 5% of your brain is conscious. 95% is subconscious. Listen to your body's intuition. What is your body telling you? Does that choice feel good? Does this choice fill my soul with joy? What is the most loving thing that I can do for myself in this moment? Put your self-care first. Okay? And the soul heals with joy. And you get to follow your joy. Isn't that wonderful? Each one of us has this unique gift, and we all have superpowers, and we all get to be superheroes and exercise those gifts. And this is a journey about freedom to choose who you want to be in this world and what you want in this life, and freedom from past conditionings and negative core beliefs, not knee-jerk reactions of fear and anger and those conditionings. You get to choose how you react to this life. If you have that curious observer mindset and you're rewiring your brain and retraining your brain and becoming who you want to be. Okay? So I get to choose to be here now. I choose to be grateful. I choose to celebrate life, and I choose to celebrate me. I mean, it's all about you. Okay, so That's my number 4 U, okay? And my last U is the universe. So BBBUU, universe. Faith in the universe or whatever spiritual belief you have, okay? That has been, it's been a journey of spiritual growth, and for me, and faith in God and the universe. And my laughter yoga group just a couple of weeks ago recently shared that she thought that spirituality was pillar number 6. And for my journey, I absolutely agree. There is actually for me a pillar number 6, and that is the spirituality and faith in the universe. So I think it's a journey about letting go and letting life carry you, and don't try to carry life. You know, life can only be lived one day at a time. And the limbic system likes to spin and plan and get into an overthinking loop. It doesn't like to live in uncertainty. It's constantly checking the past and the future. Live in the now. Happiness and gratitude is found in the present moment. Don't let the limbic system make you miss the best moments of your very own life. And life is going to find you when it's supposed to. All you need to do is relax and let your life unfold naturally and effortlessly and beautifully. You are exactly where you need to be. Like a flower blooming. You know, flowers don't need to struggle to bloom. They just bloom. Just let yourself unfold. Follow your joy. Bliss is your guide to your destiny, and gratitude breeds joy. So, and you know what? There's always going to be rain showers. That's part of life. Your mind, it wants things. It wants, a car, a job, it wants things. But you may not know what your soul wants. The soul wants to evolve. So maybe that's the reason why rain showers come. But, I think if you sort of, maybe for the people who have not embarked on a spiritual journey yet, maybe this would help you kind of say, what does my soul want in my life? And maybe that could be the 6th pillar for you too. So that's my top 5 retraining tips. Oh, I just want to say, so when you're living in the now, you get to dance with life and embrace uncertainties and just be flexible and go with the wind. And you don't know what's coming up. It's going to be awesome. Live in this moment. And my favorite Eckhart Tolle quote is, "The secret of all happiness and success is to be one with life and one with now." And I'm going to finish off with my favorite Albert Einstein quote, which I've already shared in the celebrations group. There's only 2 ways to live life. One is that nothing is a miracle, and 2 is that everything is a miracle. And I choose everything. Life is a wondrous miracle. Celebrate life. Celebrate now. Celebrate you. And have fun. It'll be all fine. And so that's my top 5 retraining tips. Thank you so much for listening to me. Before we go on to the questions and answers, let's just have a little stretch. So, have a drink of water if you want. And let's take a couple deep breaths. And you can stand up and see what your body needs. Give yourself a little stretch. You've been sitting there and listening to me for 40 minutes now, so let's just give yourself a little stretch and give yourself a little pat on the back. Way to go. Way to show up, put your self-care first, and give yourself a little hug and some havening. And One last stretch, and then we'll sit back down. And we're gonna have to laugh because it wouldn't be me unless we laughed. Okay. One quick laugh. Let's see. Oh, let's do inflate the beach ball and then laugh it out. So let's pretend that you are a beach ball and you're going to inflate and deflate. And we'll do 2 more times. Inflate. Sorry. Screen spit. Okay, last one. Okay, and one more deep breath. Okay, so we're going to get to the questions that were submitted. And I'm trying to answer the questions that were about ITS and retraining. Okay, so the first question is, how did you retrain around vision, head, bounce, and dizziness ITS? What was your incremental training approach? I'm having a bit of a time distracting from them because they're prominent. And I had a few questions on how to incrementally train on dizziness ITS. So I incrementally trained on reading, watching movies, standing, always with material that I really enjoyed. And vision, head, and bounce ITS are a big topic. And sometimes those ITS can be a result of sort of the abnormal physiology that's running in your body. So that can be it, or it can be also triggered by, you know, eye movement, head movement, body turns, bending forward, standing, getting up, walking on uneven ground, walking in general, sort of dancing. So it depends on the activity that you find is triggering for you. So you just need to incrementally train little by little. And remember, there will be ebbs and flows. And remember, you're not training the it, you're training the fear and anxiety about the it, and gradually kind of increasing it so that your fear and worry response doesn't get triggered as your physiology catches up and you're able to do more and more. And so, and just so I had incrementally trained to standing probably about 20-30 minutes before I needed to sit down. And I wanted to go to a party because I hadn't been to a birthday party for years. And so I thought, oh, I can do this. And so I was at that party, and I actually stood for an hour because I was so distracted. I was having so much fun. And this goes back to the record approach. Like, okay, I had physiologically changed, but also some part of me was running old records where my brain didn't run the subconscious physiology associated with standing. It was so distracted that it didn't know what to do. So, just remember that little by little, and you're training on not getting your limbic system and your fear and worry response triggered with the it, okay? And I don't recommend incrementally training on driving or walking on uneven ground unless you're sure you can stay in your training zone, because you don't want to step out of your training zone in a situation where you could possibly, run into a bit of trouble. Okay, so incrementally train in a safe place, and I used a lot of laughter, body movement, repetition. Like I would track a dragonfly because I love dragonflies and butterflies. I'd use that for eye tracking. Head movement. So I actually it's like a confession. I incrementally trained head movement with watching Tom Jones videos and impersonating him. So Tom Jones is a 1960s UK Las Vegas show pop rock star, and he has this. Comedians love to parody him. He'd have this, it's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Ha, 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 ha. I would do this little routine, and I'd make myself laugh, and and my limbic system absolutely did not know what to do. It's like, okay, she's not herself. She's Tom Jones. She's swinging her hips, and shaking her head. So you've got to kind of disassociate with any fear or limbic response with your incremental training, okay? And you don't have to train every it. As your physiology normalizes, your its will go away. Now, if the its are really strong and they're 24/7, do your best to distract them from them. Give yourself lots of self-compassion and just keep on identifying them as limbic so that your brain and your subconscious don't get a fear response triggered with them, okay? And again, I think there's quite a lot of coaching on the forum, and the DNRS coaches, I think, are very skilled at dealing with 24/7 its. So there's a wealth of information on the forum and in the coaching that we can access. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay, this next question is, how did you overcome the pop that something's wrong and I need to get it checked out? And this person says, I've been retraining for 3.5 years and my head its are still there to a significant degree. Okay, and I'm going to pair it with this other question that says my head symptoms are quite strong and they're 24/7, and I need to get some medical. I'm thinking that I might need to get some medical advice, neurologist perhaps, and it would be nice to have some relief from some pain its while I'm rewiring. Did you take anything for your its to support your rewiring? And did you get support from mainstream medicine while rewiring? Okay, so there's some pretty big questions here that I'm just going to take a few minutes to answer. I think seeking medical help is a win-win situation because you either find that all the tests are negative and that your symptoms are limbic, and this settles your limbic fear response and gets you to embrace pillar 1. Or they might find something that's tweaky that can treat while your system is rewiring and healing. You need to do what you need to do to calm your limbic worry and fear response down. And there's no judgment with that. And if that's seeking more medical advice, that's okay. Okay? So, and absolutely, you can get medication support for any physiology that you need while you're rewiring. Because I think the DNRS principle is that you don't go off your medications or your supplements until you get medical advice. And you're waiting for your physiology to catch up with your new brain systems. And yes, I got mainstream support while I was rewiring. I used physical therapy, massage, acupuncture. And, I'm going to sort of give you, I've used this example before in my posts. There's the model of the elephant and the group of blind people around the elephant. It's a common cognitive behavior therapy example where, we're all a bunch of blind people around this elephant and we're trying to describe it to each other. Okay, so, some people will say, okay, the elephant's like a wall. This elephant's like a wall. And somebody else will say, oh, no, the elephant's like a tree. It's like a trunk. And somebody else will say, oh, it's kind of like ropey, like a snake. The elephant's like a snake. And somebody else will be like, no, this elephant, it's leathery and hard and ropey. And so we all have different views of the elephant. And I think that in medicine, the integrated mind body approach that's really sort of come to the forefront in the last 10 years is the conversation needs to be broadened, in that, let's say the typical body approach, the physical, everything's physical. You're at the butt of the elephant and you're measuring and you're taking samples and okay, that erase that imagery from your head for a second. Okay, go to the head of the elephant. You go, okay, no, there's a mind here. There's a mind and a body with this elephant. And for me, it's like encompassing all the perspectives of the elephant. While you're addressing the mind, there's still a butt. And for the people who are, in the physical approach to medicine, there's a mind over there. And to kind of have this holistic, integrated mind-body approach to rewiring, I think is for me is the best approach, because you're not discounting different views of the elephant. You're integrating them all into one comprehensive view of health and wellness. And so it's absolutely fine to, for example, I'm going to speak to this because I feel so much compassion for the people there who have these strong, uncomfortable its. They've been retraining for a long time, 24/7, is that, let's say you have a migraine it, and the migraine physiology is such that, that you may need to follow a migraine diet while you're rewiring. And migraine physiology is such that the glucose metabolism in your brain is slightly off kilter. You may need to eat every 4 hours. It's absolutely okay to follow a migraine diet while you're rewiring. And, for the migraine physiology, if you're getting a lot of dizziness and head its, you're not supposed to leave more than 12 hours between meals. So you have a bedtime snack that's protein and complex carbohydrate to keep the glucose in your brain up, and then you have breakfast before the 12 hours have passed. Like, those are all from the physical medical model. Very important while your physiology is rebalancing. So an integrated approach is what I'm saying. Okay, so we're going to next question. Any tips for its that are linked to emotions and present frequently? That is, they come and go throughout the day. So I'm interpreting this, and if I've interpreted anyone's questions slightly off from what you intended, please private message me and I will try and answer it again. So the emotions that present frequently come and go, I'm assuming that these are its that come with sadness, grief, anger maybe. And so my take on this, what I've learned in my own journey, is that no emotions are dangerous, none of them. And the emotions are always valid. They're not, it's just not always valid to this moment. So the emotions can be from past or of, things that associate with the past, and from fear and worry about the future. Just try and notice if the emotions are valid to this moment. And then if they are, let them come and go like a wave. Don't stuff them down. The emotions usually resolve within 90 seconds to a few minutes. Just let yourself feel them and let them pass out, sort of go through you. Try not to sit in negative emotions or feed negative emotions, and, try to keep coming back to the present moment. You are safe, you are loved, and you are more than enough. And could it be that you're taking a situation personally? Has your limbic lens come, are you viewing life or the situation with the limbic lens? Like, they're saying something about me, or you're assuming something about someone or something. because the limbic system likes to make it all about us in a negative way. So it likes to make it all very self-centered. So just try to keep yourself grounded in the moment and try and take any limbic filters off. And there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff on the web about dealing with emotions, and there's so many books about dealing with emotions in a positive way. So I'm going to leave that to you to kind of journey, okay? So when the next question is, when the it is a strong sensation, pain, muscle, headaches, in the body, I've been doing mood boosting as well as leaving the house to follow my joy. This helps sometimes, and it's lift or lessen, and sometimes not, and they put me into needing some rest. So I just like to say that it's great that the mood boosting as well as leaving the house to follow your joy helps. You know, do your best. If you've interrupted the pop and the core belief, and you still need to rest, that's okay. You know, it's lots of self-care, lots of self-compassion. Remember, you are rewiring the triggers and thoughts and beliefs and actions to the best of your ability. If you get an it, identify it as an it, and say, you know, this is just a limbic response. I wonder what false message got through. And try to identify the trigger if you can, but don't worry if you can't. And do a round. And if you still need to go rest, go rest. Your brain will understand that you interrupted the loop and that you want it to go down a different pathway. Okay, so that's that question. How do you deal with pain its when they're severe and not get lost in the emotions that come with it? Okay, so this, lots of self-compassion, and it's okay to have emotions with its. You know, it's okay to give yourself some self-care and self-compassion with your its. And your brain doesn't know the difference between physical pain its and emotional pain its. So there's a whole sort of response with that. And so if you're having some emotional pain its, then treat yourself as if you had physical pain, like lots of self-care and lots of self-compassion, and identify the it as limbic. And you can send love to the pain and tell your body that you promise to take care of it and that your body doesn't have to shout at you anymore. And there's literally books about pain and thousands of excellent research on cognitive behavior therapy and different techniques to modulate pain. You know, functional MRI studies. Like, it's incredible how many different techniques and relaxation methods, blah, 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 that can actually deal with pain. And it's okay if you've been training for a while to seek some support, okay? Does inflammation have anything to do with its, or is it just can chemistry? And this question goes on to say, does can chemistry cause inflammation? So short answer, as I said, there's books written about pain. The limbic system loop can cause inflammation. The can chemistry can cause inflammation, but chronic pain does not correlate at all with the amount of injury. So the chronic pain that you're experiencing can be heightened and enlarged in the brain. You could absolutely rewire that. And the person goes on to ask, what types of support can I give my body while it adjusts? I've mentioned some supports before, as much as you want. And as long as you keep identifying the it as a result of faulty wiring in the brain and take the fear out of it, that's what I believe. I think you can, I mean, if you're having some strong pain its, I think, you know, you've been rewiring for, 6 months or, a year, I think you could absolutely start support. Well, I think you can actually support it from day one because it's uncomfortable. So that's my opinion. And okay, I'm going to just answer one more question because it's going on to 102, and I want to just check the questions in the chat. Okay, so heart hits. Did your heart hits go back and forth a lot? And the answer is absolutely. My heart rate and blood pressure hits went back and forth, lots of ebb and flow. You just need to keep up the pot busting and do the rounds and keep on identifying with your new self. Like, you know what, that was an old pattern, and my physiology is changing, and I'm throwing out my old records. Just say, you know, it's part of the process, because it's I don't think it's possible to get it 100% right, because it's trial and error. Rewiring and retraining and incremental training is a process of trial and error, and nobody knows, not even you, what your zone is that day. So just keep on taking the fear out of it. Okay, I'm going to pause there because I'm going to put a tag on my file just so that I know that I have gotten to that question. And I'm going to take a sip of water. And you guys can stand up and stretch because you've been listening to me for an hour now. I'm going to stand up and stretch. Okay. I'm going to check the questions in the chat. Okay. Oh, hang on. Let's see. Okay. So scrolling all back to the beginning here. Just give me a second. You can breathe and laugh if you want. Ha ha ha. Okay. Okay, so the first question is, when you do rounds now, do you still say stop, 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 and the first steps? So I do stop, 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 and I do the first steps if I feel like I've moved out of my calm and relaxed state. Because I sort of think about, okay, how am I feeling? I feel like I've been triggered because, you know, we're all human. We're going to, you know, get triggered now and then because we all have limbic systems. So I do say stop, 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 and the first steps if I feel like I've sort of moved out of my calm and relaxed state. And if there's not a trigger, then I actually go right into my opposites and my new core beliefs. So, because I think now I've got sort of fairly full days, and I just like to always bring myself back to the moment where I go, okay, it's time to do a round, or it's time to do meditation, and I go, I choose to be awake, I choose to be aware, I choose to be grateful, I choose calm, I choose joy, and I choose to be here now. And I kind of bring myself back to the present moment, and then I do some breathing, and then I usually do I recite my new core beliefs just to remind myself that I've got a new approach on life. This is the new me. So that's what I do. Okay, and then I just like to make sure that because before I think I was constantly on a hamster wheel and doing instead of being. And this is the new me. The new me. I like to be, and I like to savor my life and celebrate what I'm experiencing in this moment. And so that's the whole Eckhart Tolle, one with life, one with now kind of philosophy. Okay, so I think I answered spa time. How did you turn around limiting beliefs and or old behavior patterns, pops, as you got out into the world again? So that is, I think I just answered that. As I started getting busier, I wanted to make sure that I didn't go back into old behavior patterns of, you know, re-identifying my self-worth with what I could do and not who I was, and really valuing and being grateful for everything every day. And, and just sort of bringing myself back to gratitude and being in the present moment. And I do that sort of multiple times a day, just because I don't want to miss the best moments of my own life. I want to see my children and see what they're doing and appreciate their smile. And I want to go outside and watch a butterfly. And I love watching houseflies sun themselves on leaves, because it's like, you know what? It's like, wow, they got it right. They're enjoying the sun. There is a housefly and they're sunning themselves on my plant leaf. And it's just the most wonderful thing. So that's what I, and I recite my new core beliefs and my opposites every day. It takes me about 15 minutes, and I do it usually as part of a round. And just to remind myself, this is who I am now. Okay, so that's what I do that. And then, so I think our limbic system associates our experience with the place where we have experienced our its. So when we leave home, we don't have that conditioned environment association. It's super ripe for building new pathways. Completely agree. I think so. Yes. And yeah. And whether the 2 to 3 thing change hypothesis would bear in some situations, maybe. So I think it would be a great research study, but that's certainly, I think that's definitely part of it. Okay. Let's see. Lots of love. Thank you, guys. Okay. Question: to really become a different person, is this through our mind or anything we can or ought to do out in the physical environment to signal this? I remember Annie spoke of changing furniture around. Excellent question. Yes, I think so. Yes, Annie does suggest that we change furniture around to remind ourselves to kind of break old habits. For now, I'm only speaking from my own journey. For myself, it wasn't enough, because at the time that I did it, it may be that it could have accelerated some things if I had done it later in my journey. But I did try and do the changing, like putting sticky notes and putting on my pants different and writing with my other hand. It was just, in the time that I tried it, it wasn't the right time, because I was too busy dealing with it and pop busting. So perhaps maybe if I was was further along my journey and embraced pillar 1 and wasn't spending so much time catching pops, maybe the change in environment would have helped. So that's a really good question. But certainly, I think a retrainer, F, if you're out there, big hug and shout out to you. She said that once you're she felt that once you're 80% recovered, and she was recovered, that you completely believe every day that when you wake up, you're somebody new. Like you are already there. And then it would happen because you're 80% recovered, and you just keep on associating yourself with your new me or your new you. And that belief and the new records would actually become the norm. And so I hope that, and that really helped me get through the last bit, in that I actually literally sort of at 80% and above, I would just say, you know what, I'm already there. And just keep on re-identifying with my new self. Okay. Let's see. Tom Jones. Okay, I love Tom Jones. Okay. Question: can you speak to navigating the shame and embarrassment pops around digestion its that fuels disconnection, isolation, and keeps limby in fear and keeps people at a distance. Okay, so so much self-compassion and self-love and self-care, because this isn't, this is, and it's okay to validate that some of these it's are uncomfortable and difficult to deal with. And this is my own take on things, and some people may not agree with me, but I think when, and we're in the DNRS model, we're supposed to minimize certain things and say, oh, oh, no big whoop, I can do that. But sometimes that's almost an invalidation response, because if we're having a tough time and if we need some self-compassion, that invalidation does not calm the limbic system down. But you put a DNRS spin on it saying, you know what, this is a rain shower, it's not comfortable, so much love and self-compassion, but you have the tools to deal with this. You are strong. So that's how I embrace tough situations, in that I give myself so much self-love and self-compassion and validate that, I'm personally, this is a hurdle for me, but I can absolutely do it, and good for me. So, and I understand, that you can laugh about it and kind of minimize it, because, we're the only species that get embarrassed about digestive issues. It's like, if you think about it, we're the only species. And so, and in certain cultures, passing gas is not a big whoop at all. And so it's that cultural lens that we have on certain digestive issues. And in Asian cultures, it's actually a compliment to the chef to belch after a meal. So I don't know if that helps you reframe the situation, but certainly, if you can tell your friends and family members, if it's in your training zone or if it's in your comfort zone, to share a little bit about what you're going through and help them understand what's going on, then maybe you can all laugh about it together. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? And it will normalize as you normalize your physiology. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, so how are we doing for time? Okay, we're doing okay. What is your best suggestions for getting yourself out of rumination after having emotional things from relationships or from challenging circumstances? Okay, and that's tricky. I think for me, I read Jeffrey Schwartz, You Are Not Your Brain. And I liked his model. He said, your limbic system and your brain, when it's experiencing emotional pain or physical pain, it almost goes into a feedback loop where it's like this, like, okay, I gotta get out of this. 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 And it's hard you have to stop that vicious cycle of looping and spinning, is literally spinning. And I've noticed myself, earlier on when I was going through some rain showers, that it would do this, spin, loop, smooth. And you basically have to force yourself out of the loop. And you can do that by, first of all, acknowledging that you're in emotional or physical distress. Give yourself lots of love and compassion. Validate that it's a tricky situation, but that you could absolutely move through it. And then distract. And sometimes what happens for me is that if I go through my opposites, my list of opposites and new core beliefs, I can actually find one that I can feel my whole body go, I needed to hear that. And then I found it. I found what has triggered my limbic system. And then you just go, oh, and then you can keep on reciting that core belief or that new core belief and that new opposite, and you can give yourself lots of love and havening, and then lots of self-care and lots of self-compassion, and then try and distract. And sometimes, especially at night, I find that sometimes if I'm ruminating in the middle of the night because I've woken up, because I occasionally will still do this, that I go, okay, that's all fine, but my new beliefs are this, 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 and this. I'm here in this moment. Be here now. Be here now. Now is 2:30 in the morning. What do I need? I need to sleep. I need to rest. Be here now. There's nothing I can do about this in the present moment. And life will come to me and I will find the answer, and go back to your spiritual beliefs if you need to, and just do all that sort of good stuff at all your tools. And sometimes it's just a matter of pulling your brain out of it and saying, okay, be here now. Enough. I know you're in distress. I know that you're spinning, trying to get a way out of this because you're in distress. You're fine. You're safe. You're loved. You're more than enough. Be here now. You're doing the best that you can in this moment with what you know in this moment. Tomorrow is a new day, new evidence, new aha moments will come. You will handle it. Okay, so I think that's my best suggestions. Really good questions, you guys, because I often have your questions in my thinking cap for months on end because they're such good questions. So the next question is, how did you communicate your needs to others, caretakers, family, and friends? And what is your advice to those close to you? Keep wanting to check in on how you're doing with, okay, let me try again. What is your advice if those close to you keep wanting to check in with how you're doing each day? So I'm very blessed. I have a very supportive family and friends network, and I told them all about DNRS, and even some of them would do rounds with me to see what it was all about. So grateful and so blessed. And I would tell them, I'd say, you know what, in a nutshell, I'd explain to them what the limbic response was, because everybody, once you explain it, everybody gets it. It's a fear and worry response, one of the two arms. And you want to tell them that, hey, you know what, I need to stop triggering my fear and limbic response. So I need to stop focusing on my its, and I need to stop identifying with the old me and my old core beliefs and old patterns. And you say that, and you just be authentic with them and say, you know what, thank you so much for checking on me. I so appreciate it. And I'm so grateful for your love and support. But maybe we could leave the questions, because you're refocusing my attention on my its and how in the past I thought I was broken. I'm not broken. I'm rebalancing and becoming, and I'm transforming and becoming. And I appreciate this. And, I will tell you, if you want, I can give you sort of maybe a monthly update of celebrations. I want to celebrate what I can do. Let me share with you my celebrations and my gratitudes and what I'm thankful for. And maybe that's sort of a way to get them to actually rethink on how they're living their own core beliefs. So that's my answer to that question. What if we can't stay in our training zone due to life circumstances? Excellent question. Because I know for people who have 24/7 hits, they're already out of their training zone in some aspect of some parts of their lives. And certainly, I appreciate, so there is a wealth of information of 24/7. It's on the forum, but also that you don't have to incrementally train everything. And you actually can just incrementally train on a thought sometimes. And this is what I used to do all the time, is that I didn't actually would do the activity, let's say I was going to speak up at something I disagreed with. And so, and I would work up on, being my true self and speaking, speaking from my heart, mind, and body and soul. So I just kind of trigger myself with the thought of speaking up. And so, and then when I got that limbic response shut down, then I was actually able to do it. So, and it's absolutely okay to be living in a situation where you're out of your training zone. Because if you acknowledge the fact that you have it because your limbic system is triggered and is giving you all this stuff, then it's all about pillar one and all of the rest of the pillars, and just having faith that it's okay to be in a situation where you're out of your training zone for a good part of your time. However, if you can kind of build in, like maybe even an hour, a few times a week, where you can remove yourself where you actually are in your training zone and do it part of a self-care, kind of a, just give yourself a bit of a break. If you can do that, that would be helpful, I think. And, this is a super good question. Like I said, there is some information on the forum about 24/7 hits and living in a situation that you're out of your training zone. And I believe the coaches also have some good information. But, this might be a question that you want to restart again on the forum for a discussion. And if anybody else who has some thoughts on this question and is not in your training zone, to share it with the general, post your ideas to me and I can glue and stick them together, because I'd be interested in whatever anybody else's perspective is on this. And then we could, let's see. Okay, I've got who you are, and then I can message it to you, okay? And I think, how are we doing for time? There is 1:24. I think we have time for one more question. Did you train on food its? Okay, so if so, did you find that they resolved when you embraced pillar one more fully? And I actually had very few food its. I did have some, and they absolutely went away over time. And I did not actually, food its were not one of the things I actually incrementally trained on. I just assumed that they would go away because I had other its that were more important to me. And they did help when I embraced pillar one more fully. So I'm going to leave that question just because training on food its was not a big part of my journey. So I'm going to actually squeeze in one more. Did you have to train on severe fatigue its, and if so, how? Yes, I did have to train on fatigue its, and I'm wondering if, in a nutshell, it was basically I would train on sitting up out of bed, and then move to sitting up and doing rounds, and then standing up and doing rounds. And for me, and this is only for me, that it was really important for me to actually start doing rounds, sitting up and then standing up, at least part of the round that I could do. So in the beginning, it was, I did the stop, 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 and the 6 steps. And then sometimes I would need to sit for the past memory. And then I would try and stand up for part of, or at least the future, because you're trying to teach your body a new chemistry in the brain. So a new neurotransmitter cocktail. You're also trying to get it to pair with a body physiology in the body. So that was the best starting point for me. I have had others who can't do it that way, and they have had to find a different way. And then as I got more and more time sitting up and standing up, I would sort of you know, do more joyful activities and distract myself and try and put new records in with the, you know, dancing and singing and things that brought me joy. And I think one of my aha moments was one time I had strayed out of my incremental training zone, and I was thinking, well, should I? And I was feeling fairly significant its, and I thought, well, you know what, maybe I should skip my round and go lie down instead. So I did that, and so I got partly rested that time, and then I got back up and I did my rounds. And actually, I found that for me, the rounds gave me way more energy than the rest. And so I went, oh, okay, you know, it's my brain needs more of this chemical cocktail, and my physiology needs more joy. And so I think now that wasn't always the case. Sometimes I would actually need to do a combination of rest and rounds, and sometimes rounds only. But I think it depends on your journey and where you are that day and what part of your journey is that the fatigue. It's is trial and error, and you just need to kind of, for me, I just needed to incrementally train more uptime and really firmly believing in pillar one. And I think that if somebody could take a record of the last questions, I will answer them in a coffee with Lorelei. And I see, I'm going to close my chat down if I can figure out how to do it. And I see Anya's back there.
Yes, just wanted to thank you, Lorelei. Thank you so much. This was a phenomenal talk. An hour and a half flied by like it was 5 minutes. And